Hi traders, and welcome to the Technical Analysis Market Wrap on Friday the 23rd of October. So we've had some pretty good moves this week on a lot of the majors, hovering between the key support and resistance zones that we highlighted last week. So there's been some pretty good scalping opportunities, and we'll jump straight into the charts and see if we can identify any new ones today and potential setups for next week. So I'll start out here on the Aussie USD. You can see we've got that really strong support zone that we drew up at the 70-cent mark a few weeks ago now, and it's been playing the game quite nicely. So we had some good opportunities to short it down to the 70 cents, and again it rebounded off it. So again, before we the elections coming up, we're going to stick to the scalping opportunity. So we're going to highlight the zones on the daily, and then we'll just duck down to the smaller time frames to see how we can actually trade these setups over these key zones. So you can see here, this is a 1 hour chart now. We've got a series of lower highs and lower lows that reversed. Then we've got the series of higher highs and higher lows. Straight up, this was our first opportunity to enter this trade, which is great, off the support zone. And it's going straight into the resistance that we would fully expect would hold up. Remember, the 50 point holds on these major currencies are playing the game really well for scalping. So we only really want to be aiming for 50 to 100 pips at a time. 50 pips is probably the optimal because that's the one that you're going to get more regularly. Now, you can see here, we've got a series of smaller higher highs and higher lows off these moving averages on the 1 hour chart, and it has broken above the 100. Now, for us to be convinced it's going to go higher, it needs to make a new high and close above this level here, which is around that 71.38 area. We need to see that happen before we get involved in the long. If it does happen to start to short off and it makes a series of lower highs and lower lows and gets below the moving averages again, the obvious target is going to be the 70 cent zone, which is going to give us around about 100 pips by the time that actually plays out in the market. So pretty good trading and good scalping on this one. So hopefully you've been able to get some of that action. But now we need to see something. We don't really want to be trading this level until it either does, one, break higher here at around the 71.38 level, or close lower at around the 70.80 level. So we need a break below the 70.80. That would convince us that it's going to meander on down to the 70 cent zone again, which is still a pretty good trade. There's still plenty of pips to be had there, and there's really solid support, so it's a pretty good magnet for it to get there. So we'll move on over to the US dollar CAD now. This one's been an interesting one because it has had a bit of a change of trend on the 4 hour, but it's found itself at a level now where it's certainly starting to rebound off the pretty strong support. So if we drag this line that we've got a horizontal line here, you can see this is a pretty strong support level, has been for some time throughout September. It was resistance here, and now we're looking for it to provide some sort of support around this level here where we're at now. So we've had the big engulfing candle to reverse what was a pretty strong trend. Now what we need to do, we want to isolate the actual move here, and we'll see that it's pulled back to around the 50% on the fib as well. So it's the 50% fib pullback, at around the pretty strong roll reversal level. So what we're looking for is small signals that this is going to continue to the long side. Clearly, we want to see a break of this level here for this to continue and confirm the lightning bolt higher high, higher low sequence to change the trend. But when we go down to the smaller time frame, we're going to see a little bit more information and try and work out exactly where this one's going. So you can see here the same fib that we've drawn is still highlighted on the 1 hour. What we want to see is price basically breaking up around this level here. So around that 131 sort of 50 area would convince us that on the 1 hour chart, we need to close above there. What that would do is basically put price above the moving averages on the 1 hour, which is quite important because they have been respecting it for a bit. And we need some sort of consolidation around this level to make sure that it's going to be strong enough to actually hold this from falling further. So once we get this close above the moving averages, we can be a little bit more confident that the long is in play. And at the very least, if you're going to scalp, you'll be able to scalp to the previous high of around that sort of 131, sort of 77.80 area, which is only a very small scalp. Okay, it's only about 20 to 25 pips, but we are in a scalping environment where we're not taking long-term trades, or not ideally taking them, because we've got too much volatility in the market. So what we're looking for is those short and sharp scalps. But in order for that to happen, we need to see price confirm that it's going to break above this level here. A close above the 131.47 will do it, and then we can go for that 20 or 30 pips and try and shoot up to the previous high here. Now, if for any reason it breaks down and actually closes below this 131 sort of 20 level, then that's going to open up the bottom end again. So you have to be a little bit dynamic in environments when there is a lot of volatility. You can't be too fixated on one direction. So you need to plan for either side. So you can see here, a close above this level here would confirm that we want to go higher, and a close, of course, below this level at around the 130, 120, that would tell us that it's probably going to continue on the downward lower high, lower low sequence here and push down to these lows again. So pretty tight bands, but certainly enough of a band to get you reasonable pips if you actually time the entry right. So just set your alerts for those ones if you're not going to be around the charts, and play them accordingly. So the US dollar Swissy is the next one we're going to have a look at. We'll first, again, take it out to a daily. We can see we've got a really strong support zone that it bounced off at this level here. Okay, so no surprise to see it doing what it's doing. Everything's still a little bit bearish on the daily in terms of MACD. You can see here that it's actually only just going into the histogram. So, and the moving averages are still separating a little bit. So I'm not convinced that this is going to go very long. But again, we know that we're at support, so we have to go to the smaller time frames to try and isolate an opportunity to scalp in the direction that it's actually moving in the smaller time frame. So we can see here on the 1 hour, we've got a series of higher highs and higher lows, which is great. Price has been able to work its way up above the moving averages, and just as importantly, the moving averages are about to cross. So we've got the 20 moving average about to get above the 50 moving average, which we know is important, and price is actually hovering up there. Now, this is very, very slow. We know the Swiss is a very slow mover most of the time, so you have to be a little bit patient with it. It's a bit of a set and forget, but you're going for those 20 or 30 pip moves. Like in the first instance here, you're going to be trying to push up to probably the 90, 80, which is only about 15 pips. That's perfectly fine for a scalp, especially on a currency pair like this. But if it does happen to break this level and close above it on a 1 hour, it certainly opens up the next level, which is around that 91 area. So you can see here, I'll draw a horizontal line and take it out to a bigger time frame so you know what I'm talking about. I'll make that out there. Okay, we'll spread this one up and we'll take it to the 91 area that I'm talking about. Okay, and this is where we're aiming for. Okay, you can see that it was previous resistance and support over here. Okay, we'll take it out to a daily and it probably opens it up a little bit more. You can see that we can extend this line right out, and you can see it's obviously an important zone for it. So we're expecting the 91 to be, like I said, it's only small amounts of movement. We're not looking for anything too big and extravagant here because obviously it's fairly volatile, but it's a pretty clear target for us. And if we get that close above it, it's a very clear and easy entry signal. Stochastics is pretty much exactly where you'd want it to be. We're in a sideways market, so there's no worries about that. If it turns up and goes into the overbought, that would certainly facilitate a move into this level here. So, you know, not a lot of pips, but if you're scalping, this is perfectly fine. They're fairly tight on the US dollar Swissy most of the time, the spreads, so you should be able to get an opportunity there if you set your alerts. Not our favorite trade, but certainly one there if you are interested in trading the Swissy. Okay, so we'll have a quick look at the dollar index. It's important that we always monitor this one and see exactly where it's at in terms of what the majors are doing. Now, again, on the 1 hour, this is tracking higher. We've got a series of higher highs and higher lows. It's tracking above the 20 moving average again, which is obviously important for it. Stochastics is pushing up. MACD is pushing up as well. So on a 1 hour, it's looking fairly strong. We'll pop into the 4 hour, and this is where the concerns come in. It's straight into a 20 moving average. We know previously it's respected that a lot, all the way down here. You can see there. It is a tough moving average for it to break, especially on a 4 hour. So we do know that the MACD is starting to get out of the histogram. You know, that's telling us that it's certainly, and the histogram is rising. So they are starting to separate again. We've got the 12 moving average is starting to approach the 26 from below. So the momentum is starting to swing and push up. So it might see us actually break this 20 moving average. But in order for us to be confident that we're going to go long, we definitely need a break of this 20 on the 4 hour. Okay, so it's one of those ones, you know, on a Friday, we've got the presidential debate happening only a matter of hours here in Australia. So, you know, that's going to probably play around with the markets a little bit, depending on how they swing. It's going to probably mess around with the dollar index a little bit, as well as the indices, which we'll take a quick look at as well. So just be mindful of that there is a little bit of action going to happen in the next few hours. It does actually influence the markets a bit. Well, the last debate certainly did. So you want to be aware of that. And the dollar index is going to be one of those ones that does fluctuate with that. But we do need to see it close above the 20 if we're going to trade it in its own right, even without the news, before we look at potentially taking it long again. If it pulls back to around this green line here, which is around that sort of 92.75 area, that could be a potential pullback level where you might look at taking another long from there. So if it pulls back down here, go to a smaller time frame and potentially long it from there and continue the higher high and higher low sequence that we're seeing on the 1 hour and try and get involved in that particular trade. So we'll move on to the EURUSD now. This is looking a little bit weaker in the last day's trading. It had a pretty good run up here early this week, but it's certainly pulled up a little bit now. We'll take it to the smaller time frames again. You can see we've got a series of lower highs and lower lows, which is what we want. We're down below the 20 moving averages now, and we're about to get a 20-50 cross on the 1 hour, which bodes a little bit negative for the euro, obviously. MACD is down, not really taking any attention to the stochastic at the moment. But what is interesting in this particular pair is that we are trading within the channel. And like I say, I know we've been talking about this for a few weeks now, but a lot of the majors are channeling or at very interesting levels of support or resistance, but that is giving us really good opportunities to have these scalping attempts at a lot of these trades, and a lot of them are working out very, very consistently. And this is no different, okay? So, we've got our very key zones here drawn at 117. It's respected at plenty of times. We've also got the 119 drawn. So basically, you're trading inside these ranges. Again, you've got to be mindful that, pretty much the inverse of what the dollar index is doing. Although the 1 hour looks like it's making a series of lower highs and lower lows with a cross of a moving average, when we go to a daily and a 4 hour, you can see there's a lot more support there than you may not realize. So you've got the a roll reversal here, that was support there. It was resistance there, and we probably expect it to be support here again. We've got the 20 moving average holding it up as well. Now, if the dollar index is moving, the euro is going to be moving as well, okay? So we might see a little bit of action on this. We're going to see probably maybe a little bit more action than we normally would on a Friday in the middle of an Australian session, purely because of the presidential debate. So that hopefully will spark things up a little bit, but just be mindful that it is at a pretty key level here on the 4 hour. If it does break down and break the 20 moving average on the 4 hour, it's really opening itself up again for a retest for the 117. So once again, play this one for what the price tells you. If it does bounce off this level and we get a series of smaller higher highs and higher lows on a smaller time frame, we can trade it into the 119. But other than that, failing that, if it breaks down past the 20 and the 1 hour continues on its downward series of lower highs and lower lows, the 117 is the obvious target, and we might get a couple of good scalps in there. All right, so the last one we'll have a look at is the S&P 500. This is probably going to be the one that moves the most if the debate does start to swing around a little bit and it gets a little bit chaotic. Again, you can see that it's resting right on the 20 on the daily, so no surprises here. It's done pretty much what we expected it would do last week. It's floated in that range, but it has provided those opportunities that we talked about. The scalping opportunities that we're looking for on the smaller time frames have been present, no question about that. So what we're doing here is effectively using that as support and going to the smaller time frames and looking for the higher highs and higher lows that we always want to take along. So you can see here MACD is switched up above the 0. We're about to get a 20-50 moving average cross on the 1 hour. We've got the higher highs and higher lows. We still need to break this. I would be more inclined to wait for a break of this zone on a 1 hour. Yeah, this is probably going to be a little bit funny today, but I think it might steady up a little bit tonight and give us some better trading opportunities once the dust settles from their debate and have a look at what the market actually really thinks of the S&P 500 tonight in the New York session. But once again, with only a week and a bit to go before the actual election takes place, we're going to see a lot more volatility. And all of the majors that we talked about today and a lot of the cross-currency pairs are at the support and resistance zones that we would fully expect they would be at prior to a really large event. So I wouldn't be suggesting taking any long-term positions in the next week and a half. Just purely do the scalping opportunities that we've talked about in recent weeks, because they have been working out really well. Just play the support and resistance zones, because that's where price gravitates to when it's a bit uncertain and when the markets are volatile, and they've been giving us plenty of opportunities. So we'll see what happens tonight in the markets, and hopefully we'll get some good opportunities early next week once the dust settles from this debate. So I hope everybody's had a great week's trading. We've had some really good opportunities. A lot of the scalping opportunities that we've talked about have been playing out nicely. So hopefully you're able to get hold of some of those. We should get some good action today and into New York. And hopefully early next week will give us some fireworks prior to the big event. Have a great weekend, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all next week.